Everybody, welcome. Your saltwater guide, Captain Dave Hansen, with President of Product Development from Okuma, joining us today, John Bretza. We are super excited to have you on the show today, John. Thanks for joining us. I know you're very busy. It's trade show time, so things are hopping over there at the warehouse. But real quick, gang, I want to let you all know it's Okuma Wednesday. We always talk about some Okuma products on Wednesday, and today we have the man with us. So I don't have to pretend like I know about the products because I got John with me today. So I'm even going to pronounce the names proper, which will be pretty spectacular for me. But a little later in the show, Bill Varney will join us because we need to talk about this sand bass closure that's coming down the pipe. Now the Fish and Wildlife have it on the website, gang. I have a whole bunch of printouts. I'm going to show you a little bit later. And like I keep saying, it is a devastating blow to the industry, this sand bass closure, for no reason at all. It's all done emotionally. Somebody's sister's aunt's cousin went out, doesn't know how to fish, but went out and couldn't catch a sand bass. So now all of a sudden there are no sand bass. Craziest thing you ever did see. So I don't know what their thing is. I don't know what they think they're doing, but that's what's going on. But today we're talking Okuma. We're talking about all the products over there. We're talking about the shows that are coming up. It's going to be a great day today to be a part of this show. I don't know what's going on with all this stuff going on the screen here, John. I don't know what the heck's happening. I don't know what happened here. Huh.
Well, I'm just happy to have made it onto the screen today.
I don't know what happened there, but here we are. So John, what's going on with Okuma? What do you guys got coming down the pipe? What do you got coming up for the trade shows? The PCS show is going to be absolutely spectacular.
Well, first off, I always love joining the show. Love talking to you. We have a great time. As you know, you and I just fished not too long ago down in Cabo together, which we had a great time, with the former president and the new president of Okuma. So we appreciate you setting that up. We always like spending time with you.
No, that was so fun. And we got Alan, a blue marlin. How crazy was that?
And not only that, that was actually in support of the CCA as well. So also helping support our local fisheries. But show specials, as you said, really cool time. We have the Hall show coming up, which is right, next week. But then, the PCS show, which, I know a lot of people are planning to turn out at. And we put together some, exciting new deals, which, people come to that show to buy. They want to get geared up for the season. And, the first thing that's really cool is that we talked about the last time I was on the show. You were out at the ICAST show and you saw the McCarty Mahi reel, right? You remember how awesome that reel looks?
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of the talk of the industry right now. And we still have a little bit of remaining stock. And so it's going to be available at the upcoming shows. So if you want one of these limited run, Mahi or Dorado, looking reels, 3-toned anodized, they're awesome looking. Really makes you stand out on the boat. It's going to be your last opportunity to pick one up, probably at the PCS show. Would be your last opportunity. And we got a lot of different dealers that'll be supporting us at the show.
No, that's a sexy reel, gang. You can go back and look at some of the videos John and I made with that reel. The dang reel looks just like a Mahi, right? When it comes out of the water, it's all lit up. The colors just pop when they're in the sun. It's a pretty bitchin' little reel, and it's a collector's item, gang. They only made a limited amount of them, so that'll be fun to see at the show. And then we got the Cavella series reels that you're going to be showcasing at the show. You got all kinds of cool specials going on, and we'll be showing products on the stage. Myself and my guides will all be speaking. We got our own private stage there again this year. They take us away from the main stage because you know how I am, John. We get things going pretty fast and furious.
No, really. No, it's exciting. I was just talking to Alan yesterday. When you go to one of your seminars, they're booked. They're full. Every seat is usually full, and you don't see that at all the different stages. So it's entertaining, but also educational. So it's always great to see that, and Okuma's happy to be a supporter there. So for the upcoming show, you'll be there at the PCS show, and you know how important the McCarty is to us for the West Coast business, and then also our best selling rods for the saltwater market on the West Coast are the PCH. And so I developed a special rod just for these shows, and it's a 7.5 foot PCH rail rod. It's a 3XH rail rod. And so you can only get it if you're at one of these shows and if you participate in one of the specials. So what our sales department put together is that if you buy a McCarty 16 through the 50 series, right? So all the most pertinent, reels for long range guys and private boaters. If you buy one of these at the show, you will get one of these special PCH rods free at the show.
Free?
Free. And so
wow.
That rod by itself, off the top of my head, I think it's a $230 retail rod, I believe. And so, of course, while supplies last, we brought in a limited run, where we feel, we'll have enough to cover for all the guys that purchase McCarty's at the two different shows. But yeah, that's a smoking deal. And you get a rod that's a little bit different. Our regular rail rod's 7'4", this being 7'6". There's a little bit of a trend going to longer rods. So you can get, around the anchor, a little easier if you're on a long range boat. And so, this is a rod that, very few other people are going to have out there in the market.
No, that's exciting. Gang, nobody's offering you free stuff. Always right on the cutting edge. That is going to be spectacular. You watch me fish all the time. All I use is those PCH rods, and you're going to get one for free for purchasing a reel. There you go, because you're going to need a rod for your reel anyway, so it doesn't get much better than that. We had one of the guys talking just a second ago about that reel that you made, the black ones that doesn't have the bar on the top, that he's talking about how spectacular it is for fishing for swordfish.
The 80
was kind of designed for the guys fishing on land, right? Land-based shark fishing guys.
So exactly. He's talking about the McCarty LBS, which is all, we say murdered out. It's all blacked out reel. And we initially built it for land-based shark fishing, guys fishing on land. But as we've introduced it, like the serious anglers have identified, hey, I like that reel. It's got the longer handle, a little bit more throw for power. This would be a great reel for deep drop swordfish, specifically the 80 size. I ran into one of the guys down in San Diego when I was talking with a Luke down from Angler's Choice, and we ran into a swordfish guy. He said the exact same thing. So I think that's an opportunity for guys that are targeting swordfish in this market. That's a great reel. Also a great reel for guys, pulling spreader bars and stuff like that for the tuna as well. So not just a shark reel, it could be used for many, many different applications.
Yeah, when you took that top bar off, the middle one, that kind of made it just a whole different reel to fish with, especially if you're going to do the rail rod thing, the way the guys hold the reel with their hand right there in the you went all the way with that reel. That is a spectacular reel. When I had the Coastal Worldwide guys on the show with me, they were talking about how they in their heart feel like you made that reel for them.
They're very involved there, but you did call out a good point, is that with the rail fishing on the 80, when you're fishing that rail, you can put over the top and palm that spool when that fish is in the death circle to try to get the head turned and land that fish a little quicker.
Yeah, because as you know, when you put your hand, when you start to palm that reel, if that bar is there and that fish runs and your hand gets locked, it'll break your fingers. But you guys took care of that. You always are on the cutting edge, though. You're a fisherman, and you get to design the products, and you get to listen to guys like Todd and Dave Grimes and guys that fish big time tournament style fishing. So you've always been on the cutting edge with Okuma, I think, anyway.
Well, I mean, we like to think that we listen to the market. I love to fish. I can't be out on the water every single day. I have to be in the office, developing products. So I have to rely on the product testers and the pros out there in the market that, being on the water is their living, right? And so if a product is going to fail and affect their livelihood, then that means that we failed. So, you're not going to get a product right every single time, especially from the prototype stage. So once we bring out a product, we have these same guys continue to fish them to make sure that if there are any issues, you identify it. A fishing reel, I don't care what brand it is, it's a mechanical functioning, piece. If you don't maintain it, I mean, they can have problems, and that it's regardless of brand. Everybody's making good products these days, and our goal is to make sure that we have a product that is as durable as possible for the consumers out there in the market.
And you got a big fan here, Emilio. He can't say enough about you. He thinks very highly of you, just like those of us in the industry that know you. We know you're a fisherman. Your boys are fishermen. We all get to spend time with you, but Emilio summed it up perfect. Big fan. You deserve credit for making the Okuma brand shine through the management over the years. Absolutely. You've been on the cutting edge for a very long time. When you brought that McCarty series reel, you and Todd Mansur, that was pretty spectacular, and getting the Tiburon guts inside that thing and all that you did to put that together. That McCarty series reels is unbelievable. When I first used that fishing yellowfin, when I first started working with you guys, I was blown away by the crank ability. When you turn that handle and all, it doesn't even feel like you're getting any line. Next thing you know, you got your fish at color. It blew my mind. Now I understand how it all works, but back in the beginning, it was amazing.
And I think you're the only guy in Southern California fishing local waters with a 130.
We had two of them.
Landing bluefin in what, 5 to 8 minutes or something crazy like that?
Yeah, our big one, we had one 309 pounds. It took 17 minutes because it took that long to wind in all the kite line. But my boss, the first tuna he caught it on a competitor's reel, and it was 220. And he told me, "Hey, give me the biggest reel Okuma makes." And I remember I went in the office and talked to you, and you're like, "Yeah, I think we got one in the back." It had about a foot of dust on it, and we got that thing, and the boss was totally sold on it. And gang, it was like using a winch when we were catching those, because Paul and Dave and those guys on Wicked Tuna, they use them back there, but they're catching 800 to 1,200 pound bluefin. We were catching 300 pound bluefin, and it was like winding in a lure for us.
And I mean, the people, so many fishermen, they love the bluefin because they're having sashimi, right? It's one of the best fish for sashimi, and the quicker you land that fish, the better the quality of that meat is. It's not going to burn itself up, and you're going to have far better quality. So what you were doing at the time, you're giving your customers sushi grade bluefin tuna.
Right, that fish wasn't in the death circle ever. We were grinding those things right to the boat. It's pretty spectacular. So the Cavallo series reels, what is the big hook on those? Why? My guys are asking, why do I need one in my repertoire? What am I going to use that for?
Well, so first thing, Emilio, thank you for the comment. So you were just talking about the McCartys. So that kind of was born out of the McCartys. We had all that great quality, is that we did 2 other generations, right? We've talked about on the show about the Lejos, right? The last time, and then also the Cavallo. So the Lejos, we upgraded recently to have the dual force drag and the thrust bearing. So there's a lot of the same DNA now in the Lejos, and I call that the mini McCarty. But I wanted to bring that one up because we also have a show special coming up. And if you buy an Lejos at the show, any size of Lejos, you get one of our hot Tesoro jigging rods. And Dave, I don't know if you saw those at the show, but those are super hot for us right now. We have both the slow pitch as well as a heavier, vertical jig rods. If you fish anywhere from Alaska all the way down to Mexico, these are amazing rods, and you'll have a lot of fun there. So if you buy an Lejos at the show, you get a Tesoro jigging rod for free. And then we also have a special on the Cavallos that you were just talking about. The Cavallo is, a great quality reel, a lot of the same attributes that you'll find in the McCarty as well as a Lejos. The main difference is it's a single drag versus dual force drag, but you have the carbonite drag washers with Cal Sheets drag grease. which I think everybody in Southern California knows Cal Sheets. Um, he's got some of the best grease in the market, and we utilize that in the reel. But if you buy, because these are more price point oriented, the Kavala reels, and for our local waters, outside of the giant bluefin, you can catch anything that you want. You go on a half day, 3/4 day, overnight boat. These are just phenomenal reels. We make from a 5 narrow up through 12 size. So, great reels for, anywhere from fishing, say, 12-pound all the way up to maybe like 65-pound braided line. Um, we also have a jigging reel in there, the 5NS TB, and that actually, where you actually are showing the Kavala 2 speeds on there, that has the ergo grip, the ball shaped knob, where the special 5 narrow, the jigging reel, is a single speed. It's only single speed in the series, but it has the T-bar knob. So if you like going out there and doing the bottom fishing for maybe the vermilion rockfish, try to get lingcod, stuff like that, or if you just want a smaller, lightweight reel, this 5 narrow jigging reel is an amazing reel. But that's the only one that's a single speed. It's a 6.4 to 1 gear ratio. All the other models are going to be 2-speed models, and they start at about $265 and go up to $380 retail. And as you can see, there's a special code if you do it through Dave Hansen's show here, you'll get an additional discount.
And it's 20% off, gang. And if you're just listening to us as you're driving in your car and you can't see the QR code, which we have up on the screen right now, you put in the code DHCAV20 at AkumaFishingUSA.com. And then you'll save the 20%. But those of you that are watching right now, all you got to do is hit the QR code with your phone or after the show. I know a lot of people don't want to jump off and hit the QR code right now because you're watching on your phone while you're at work. But afterwards, just go back on here. We'll leave the code up for a little while. Remember, it came up at the 16-minute mark. You grab the QR code and you can save 20% on the Kavala series. And when you go through the QR code, you're going to get to learn all about it. But like John was saying, everything that John talked about, you're going to find out about when you're on the website. Every single thing. John pretty much wrote the book. John put this reel together. He knows the ins and outs. So if you have the really unique thing about the show, which I talk about all the time, you got John here right now. You can ask any question you want. You can, like Emilio, letting John know that John needs to know that he's changing the way you feel about the company and everything else. Everything matters when you're talking, gang. And if you got any positive things to bring, things you want to see, things you want to know about, put the comments up there. We'll read them right now. We'll put you on the screen, let John see what's going on, which is a kind of a unique thing about our podcast. It's very interactive, and you get to talk to our guest. I think that's why we do so well, is because of the interactability.
So Dave, on this Kavala reel, we talked about the drag system, which we know the heart and soul of a fishing reel. It's got to be the drag system. It's got to perform, but you also need the cranking power. So I talk about all the time the McCarty reels and how the 17-4 grade stainless steel sets that reel apart from all other competitors in the industry. That's in the Lehos, but it's also in the Kavala, that same stainless steel. People don't use it on all the other reels because it's harder to cut. You got to sharpen your gear cutters more often, but it's going to be the best material you can have for hardness as well as corrosion resistance, that good compromise. But then another key point, those are all machined aluminum reels. And what reel at this price point are you going to get a 3-year warranty? And then on top of that, if you look at the design, there's not 2 side plates in a frame. That left side plate, or palm side plate if you're right-handed, is connected with the frame. That's all one piece. So the structural integrity there, if you catch a big reel, like if you think when we were younger, we had all these albacore, and Tiburon and Accurate got real famous by doing the frames, right, to make sure that you don't get flex and everything in your converted Jigmaster reels for fishing them for those albacore. So this reel, it's all machined aluminum, but that left side plate and frame are all one piece. So there's no chance for any flexing or bending there. So, that's a real good attribute if you're trying to take smaller reels to catch bigger fish.
Did you see the question Devin Cruz threw up on the screen there, John?
No,
Here.
read it off for me.
Here you go. There you are.
Cavala line and the Titus Gold line. So, Titus Gold was one of our Okuma's early introductions to the market. And honestly, at that time, that predates our, time working with, say, Tiburon. And so, the biggest thing with, actually, I take that back. So the Macaira and the Titus Gold are completely different animals. The materials internally are all different. And that's why I specifically called out the 17-4 grade stainless steel. And so with the Titus Gold functioned well as long as you really maintained it. But there's electrolysis because of dissimilar metals. And that's when we started teaming up with Tiburon. And when we really built the Macaira from the ground up, we looked at every aspect of the reel. And one of the biggest thing that we addressed was, the chance of electrolysis and dissimilar metals. And so that's why all the stainless steel inside of a Macaira is 17-4 stainless steel. We did things, like on the outside side plates where the screws go into the body. Most people don't think about this, but we created channels that go around the screw so that water can't sit on the stainless steel screws and create a electrical field with the stainless and aluminum so that water would flush right out of there. So we really try to think, like Dave said, every possible aspect of the reel, but that came with working in the industry with all these pros out there in the market to identify what areas do they have with other reels in the market and how can we identify and do this. And, I talked before about Cal Sheets. He's known as like the legend in our fishery. I took our prototypes to Cal and he went through them and, pointed out different areas that we could mention. I think I gave him 18 different points. And he said, if you could do all 18 points here, or if you could do, 3 to 4 of these points out of these 18, you'll have something that, no other manufacturer's done before. And we addressed every point on his list. And so, our goal, we reached out to all the different guys in the industry. A lot of, anglers also know Alan Tanney. He's also a big guru for the West Coast. He worked very closely with me. He brought us the different elements, him and his buddies with the TSI oil for the spool bearings. And so, we'd like to take credit for all this, but a lot of this came from working with the pros out there in the industry to make sure that we could bring you the reel that we feel is the best reel in the industry for a 2-speed. And of course, some of that technology carried down into the Lehos and then also into the price point Cavala that Dave was just talking about.
And then Emilio's got more nice things to say about the products over there, the Macaira, the color of the mahi and all that stuff we were talking about earlier. So, John, yesterday I had Bob Hoos and Michael Folks on the show, and we were going down memory lane and talking about the anchovies. And we are in an anchovy cycle right now. We're in a cold water cycle. In a little bit, you and I and Bill Varney and my buddy Al are going to talk about this sand bass thing and what's coming down the pipe for Southern California. But I believe we are in to a cycle which we could very possibly, very easily see that albacore back here, because this is the first cold water cycle we've had since 2013, 2014. Anchovies, fishing them today compared to you and I when we were using a Jig Master or a Squidder Junior. Now with your Tesoro series reels, the Star Drag reels that you guys have, Bob Hoos was asking me, what do you think? And I was like, it's going to be a game changer compared to the way we used to fish anchovies. The drag, the spinability of the spool. I don't know the proper words that you used to describe how you made it so smooth, but Todd and I can cast our number 4 hook with no bait on it at all with that Tesoro series reels. Can you help me understand a little bit more why?
Yeah, so, that's what we were talking about, the technology, the alignment from the aluminum frame and the side plates, that's all going to give you precise alignment. So you have, better spinability. And then when you get to the smaller reels and say the Lehos and the Macaira, that's that TSI oil. It's so friction free. It was built for NASA for the space shuttle. So I mean, this is space age stuff,
Wow.
and that's what Alan Tanny and his buddy. They're the ones that brought that to me, right? And so we started utilizing that where no other manufacturers are using it, but it allows you to have a reel that performs like a blueprinted reel, out of the box. And then you were talking about the albacore. I mean, what a perfect reel these new Cavallas. And when we grew up, we are using lightweight reels, but now everybody that's been into fishing recently, they're throwing big sardines. Everybody can cast a big sardine. So it takes a little bit more, trained thumb, a little bit different rod, little lighter rod tip, when you're throwing these anchovies for, albacore. And so, I mean, it's so exciting to think that that might be a cycle that we have here in the near future, but it's going to be a great opportunity for both Alejos and Cavallos.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be game changer, gang. And you're going to want to have some different kind of reels that because like John just said, anybody can cast a 6-inch, 7-inch sardine. But now when you're going to have to start to do the finessing, then you're going to get to see what John's talking about, the whole different system and how it all works. And the castability of these reels are second to none as far as I'm concerned. I never, ever, when I'm fishing the live shrimp in the mangroves or we're fishing the little tiny mullet in the mangroves, it just brings me back to anchovy style fishing. And I never go, wow, I wish I had a different reel. I am very, very happy with the series of reels that you give me to fish with. They are an incredible product. The way that the castability, I know you're right in there on the cutting edge, and that grease that he's talking about is a game changer, gang. If you're not using all that and you're having a problem casting, it's probably because you're not using the right gear. So check it out. And then my good friend Daniel over at Real Quick, John, he has that new Real Quick reel seats, and he's making them for all of the Okuma reels because of the influence I've had on him. Have you got to see any of those yet?
So he sent photos over to Daniel and I. Very, very cool design. You don't have, big bolts on the bottom or anything. Real clean design. And it's cool because they, fit a lot of our reels out there. And honestly, I think it's always a compliment when, companies outside of our company are actually making attachments or, doing some tweaks, because it means that, our reels are popular enough to, you know, offer some customization like that. So it's cool to see.
And Daniel's kind of like you. He took suggestions from me and Todd Mansur about, hey, we would love to fish with these, but you got to put them on. You got to put them so that the McCarty series reels and the Tesoros and the Cavallas and the Alejos are all going to fit on there. And he's building them that way. He bought them. He bought the molds. He bought the machinery. He's making them right now. It's pretty spectacular. I can't wait to start using them when we start putting your reels on them and out there on the water. It's going to be spectacular.
So so as we were talking about the Cavala, that's such a key product for the California market, especially with the trend and the direction of, the currents and all that stuff. And so that's another one where we have a special at the shows coming up. And so because of the price point, right, you got to remember these are a little bit less expensive reels. Like I said, a 3-year warranty. So for every 2 Cavalas that you buy at the show, you get one of these popular Tesoro jigging rods as well. So that's an awesome deal as well, and perfect rod to match up with the Cavallos. So
now we know we got next week. We got the hall shows coming up. What's your booth look like at the PCS show? I know we should talk about the hall show, but I'm talking about the PCS show. I'll be there speaking every day. It's a big, 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 giant event. I want to talk about what are you guys going to have going on there?
So we'll have some of our product testers in the booth. We're going to be, you actually will purchase these products and come to our booth to actually redeem some of the specials. But if you guys have any questions, we'll have our product development team there, our sales team. I will actually be there, but I probably won't be there till Saturday because I'm flying directly in from overseas. I'm going to be back at the factory. And so if you want to hear about some cool new stuff, you want to talk product, I'll be there on the weekend, and you might get some hot, fresh, new information. I guess right off the press, right off the development line.
Yeah, is Michelle and the boys coming to the show Saturday or Sunday?
Well, Zach, I might be able to get Zach out there, but Xander's out there in Louisiana doing his thing. So, but yeah, Michelle, I'm sure will be out there.
And her family, boy, they love watching me talk, don't they?
Yes, they do.
You guys were all there that night of the sabiki rod fiasco.
You know, that's one of the most memorable moments of the Hall show. I've never seen anything like that.
Oh my gosh, gang. Good thing no one was videoing that. That's all I got to say. I'll never be asked to go to a show again, but we had the most spectacular night there. That was pretty funny. And I support the Hall shows. I love Bart. I do, but I only can go to one show a year now because of the fact that I bought a monkey and I have to hire a babysitter to come. So it's a big deal. Do not buy a monkey, gang. Do not buy a monkey. But John, I got a really good friend of ours. He usually does the show with me, and he uses your products exclusively fishing in the surf. You know this guy. Everybody knows this guy. We're going to bring Bill Varney in here to talk a little bit about surf fishing and all your great rods and reels that you make for surf fishing. There he is. Bill Varney, good morning.
Wake up, whoa, hello, guys. Hello. My gosh, I fell asleep on my Okuma reels.
There you go. Talk to John about how much you love that new spinning reel that they're making for the surf. That thing's insane, right?
Oh my gosh, John, like when I love your video when you say like, oh, it's got 22 pounds of drag pressure. Like there is nothing we catch in Southern California in the surf that would use 22 pounds of drag pressure. So that's incredible. But just the quality of the reels, the fact that, I go down there all of the time, water splashing up on them, sand, salts on my hands, and just the ability of just rinsing them off, drying them off, and using them in the surf. And such excellent drag, in the surf. It's really interesting because when you're out on a boat, you're tuna fishing or yellowtail, you get bit, you let them eat it, you put it in gear, you set the hook, and then the fish fights and it pulls the drag out. In the surf, we've got the fish pulling the drag out. We got the waves pushing them in. We've got the water sucking out. We have all of these different factors going on at once, which means that we use monofilament with stretches. We use a parabolic rod that bends, so it acts as a shock absorber. And then we have to have a really efficient spinning reel that has a good drag that will engage and disengage at the right times. And that's what Okuma offers. On the lower end, we love these Avenger reels, but really every line of spinning reel with Okuma works great on the beach. We're glad to have them.
Well, Bill, I'll tell you something I didn't get a chance to mention earlier, but since you're on, this is great. One of our most popular selling rods right now is a Rockaway SP for the West Coast. Super, super popular. And I just developed 2 new models that are actually going to be coming out in June. But the Rockaway SP is going to be a 902M. It'll be an 8 to 17 pound rod. And then also a 962 medium plus, which will be a 10 to 20 pound rod. So those will be 2 additions that should help some of these West Coast anglers be a really, really nice complement to the Rockaway SP line.
Absolutely. And these Rockaways, here's one right here. Now, this is an 8.5 foot SP. Not sure there's a number on it or so. And these rods, fully built, weigh like 5 ounces. They are light as a feather. And, besides the strength and the pliability and the just the action on the rod, those are all fantastic. But in light line surf fishing now, in the common type of surf fishing that 95% all anglers do, we're walking the beach hunting for fish. And John, our old style with 14-foot Calcuttas and a jig master and 40-pound tap, it was too heavy. You'd be down there for 45 minutes. You'd be exhausted. So having these really light rods not only make it easy for you to move to different areas along the sand and actually, quote unquote, hunt for fish, but they don't wear you out. So you can be down there for a 4-hour session and you're ready to go home and have something, to eat and then take a nap. So the other way, as Dave knows, when we're fishing down in Cabo with Wes, you got about 45 minutes and you're exhausted and you have to go home and lay down. So we love these SP rods.
Well, the best part of what you're talking about, this is accessible to everybody here in California, but I'll tell you what, it's a lot lower fuel bill than taking the boat out.
That's for sure. And John, last Friday I was ice fishing. I was with my buddies over at the lake over here in Colorado ice fishing. And when I got down on the ice with them, I am not kidding here. They had about $12,000 worth of equipment. They had underwater cameras, they had tents, heaters, all of these different things. And I was sitting there on the ice thinking to myself, I could go and spend $150 and have the ultimate surf fishing outfit for the rest of my life. And here these guys are pulling a little fish out of an 8-inch hole for $12,000. It's kind of like those bass fishing guys.
So just so you know, John, I brought Captain Al Clowers on here too. When I go on his boat, it's like going to the Okuma warehouse. He has every single rod and reel that you have ever made. You will be blown away when you go with Captain Al Clowers. It is absolutely amazing. John Bretza, Al Clowers.
Love it. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I have a 36-foot Riviera. When we got it, we outfitted it with straight Okuma stuff.
Oh, excellent.
I think the bill was upwards about 40 grand. So seriously, from 80 wides, 50 wides, 30 wides, 20 wides, 15s, 10s. Those are all the Okuma Makara, and then I have a bunch of those Star Drag Tesoros. In fact, you guys were talking about anchovy, and real quick, and Okuma a minute ago. I have that rod here, Dave, that has that little 5 on there, Okuma 5, with the real quick handle with the whippy tip. It's perfect for anchovy fishing, and it's all Okuma fitted with the real quick reel. It's pretty trick.
Oh, awesome. That sounds like we got to do some fishing.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, John, you got to get down there and do the Back Bay with Captain Al Clowers. I did it a year ago, and I had no idea there were bonefish in San Diego. I heard rumor about it. I went with Al, and I don't even know how many bonefish I caught. We only fished half a day, and we had like 12 species of fish, and we probably caught 40 fish, and I don't even know how many of them were bonefish. It was as fast as you could get your line in the water. It was just fish after. It was absolutely incredible. But Al and Bill are huge Okuma guys. These guys both fish your product exclusively, and they had really no skin in the game as far as pro staff or anything. But when I met them both, they both had all they were holding on to was your product. So I was like, I got to have both of them on here with you today.
Right.
Appreciate the support, guys.
Absolutely.
Do
you know he's on your guys' team now? I've known Chris ever since he was a kid. Chris Marceau, I guess, is on the team. You know,
he's our sales rep right now.
Right. So Chris is a really, really good friend of mine from the freshwater side of things.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Back when I was bass fishing tournaments and everything. Yeah.
So we got you on the show, John. We got Bill. We got Al. We got a big problem right now, gang, that we have to address. It hit last night at 10 o'clock at night. My sister sent me the bulletin. This is going to happen. Unfortunately, it's going to happen. This sand bass thing. And John Bretza, you and I, we love going out sand bass fishing on your little boat and on my little boat. We do it a lot. Al and Bill, Bill catches 1 million of them in the surf, and Al, Back Bay, Al sand bass. To think that we're about to enter a world where we're not allowed to catch a sand bass, it just blows my mind, gang. And I'm going to kind of show why John and Bill and Al are talking about. I'm going to show some of the stuff and show you how you can go and read about it. It's on the Fish and Wildlife's website. But John, this is going to have a direct effect on all of us fishing-wise. I just can't believe that they're going to do this to us. Can you?
No, I mean, it's actually really mind-boggling to think, this is a species that, we've all grown up fishing. We also know that, these fish also migrate down into, Mexico and come back at times. But this is going to affect, the half day, 3/4 day boats. So it's going to hit them hard. It's going to affect all the tackle shops, locally, as well as all the different manufacturers. And, we talk about accessibility to the fisheries as well. And, you want to get kids out and introduce them to fishing. There's not a more accessible fishery for these, for anglers to go and use, because it's so close to the coast. And so it's really sad to kind of see what's happening right now.
And if you look at this graph that I'm showing you, gang, this goes along. If you look at the dates on the bottom, and I didn't blow it up, but this is available. This is public record. Everybody can see it. But it goes from the cold water cycle to the warm water cycle, and now we're back to a cold water cycle. You can watch it. You can see what I'm talking about with the graph. So during the time where we're not catching these sand bass, we're fishing with bait that is the size of the sand bass. We're fishing with 6 and 7 inch sardines for bait on the half day and 3/4. I'm not talking about John Bretza and Bill Varney and Al Clowers going out there fishing with their lures, because these guys are really good lure fishermen, but that's not what this industry was built on. So if you look, they're using our fish count, John. They're using the sport boats fish count to decide to not allow us to fish for sand bass anymore. So if you look at the graph, we're in a cold water cycle. We're fishing with big giant sardines for bait. You cannot control the population of our fishery by looking at the sport boat fish counts during a warm water cycle. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that's the only science that they're using for this, gang. And I'm sad that not enough people are talking about it. When I brought this up to Bob Hoos and John and Bill and Al, we all know Bob Hoos, Costa Sunglasses. We all wear the product. He didn't even know that this is about to happen. That's how scary this is. They're hiding this thing. They're not letting anybody know that they're going to take away the fish that built the Southern California industry. It built the whole industry. All the sport boats have been built on the back of the barred sand bass. There's no shortage of them, gang, in any way, shape, or form. The science is not real science, and the counts are skewed, and we need to talk about this. And I know Okuma does a ton with CCA California, John. I know you guys are super involved because you know how important it is to keep the fishery open, but they're sliding this thing in, and you as a baseball guy, this is a slider. They're sneaking it in behind us. Most people don't even know it's about to happen. Can you talk about CCA and what Okuma does with CCA a little bit, John?
I as you were talking, I remember just yesterday, I had a reps in from Southern California. One of the guys super involved in the industry. He knows about the fisheries and everything. And I mentioned about the sand bass yesterday, and it was like a deer in the headlights. He had never heard of it. And so what you're saying, the normal public has no idea what's going on. And so, Doug Lasco, our former president for Okuma, is, the president of CCA California. And, Okuma is highly involved in doing everything we can to support, not just CCA, but, all the, we try to really support a lot of the regional fisheries. But, the goal is to try to bring awareness to the public, to the anglers, so that they know what's going on. And, as you're stating right now, it's really unfortunate that there's no voice out there from the anglers community, because nobody knows about it. This has just kind of been slid in. And like you said, where's the science? I know I catch a lot of sand bass, but you know what? I catch and release almost all my sand bass. I know you don't, Dave, but I do, and so, those don't get counted into the mix. I know there's a lot of other anglers and tournament anglers that do the same thing, and only looking at the counts from the charter boats, it's a small representation of the total number of fish that, are caught and released, or, how much the population's actually out there.
Yeah, it's a very skewed science, gang. It's all slanted to what Frank Lopresti talked about on the history of sport fishing. It's all slanted to stop America from fishing. And we had Glenn Hughes on here, and Keep America Fishing is a huge thing that the president of ICAST and the CCA and everybody else was trying their damnedest to keep fishing open. But as they slide these things in behind us where we can't see what's going on, that's why I've been so vocal about this. My show, we talk about it every single day. There's not a day goes by that I don't bring up the closures, because people go, oh, Dave, you're supposed to be telling us about this and how to catch that. Gang, if we don't wake up and get more involved, there won't be anything for me to teach you how to catch, because we're not going to be able to fish. Bill, Varney, and Al went out hoop netting a month ago. They didn't catch any lobsters, John, but they caught 30-some sand bass fishing in the harbor at night on Al's boat. I mean, to think that they want to tell us that this fish, and if you read, it's hard for me to get these publications up, but if you go to the website, see what I'm talking about, this new regulation that's coming down the pipe, all of a sudden, another thing that they didn't tell us, or they're not even talking about, on this take, they want it to go to 0. But they also, if you look and you read it very carefully, which I did this morning, calico bass and spotted bay bass are on this one again. Just like last time when they took away our spotted bay bass and our calico bass the same day they took away our sand bass, and they took everything from 10 to 5, and they took the size limit from 12 to 14. They're sliding this thing in the back too. And my sister didn't even know it. When I was reading it to her, she was like, what? And I go, yeah, look, calico bass and spotted bay bass are on this regulation also. It's pretty
That's
wild.
absolutely crazy to think. Think how many people do you know that actually keep spotted bay bass?
None.
It's a catch and release fishery for the majority. And I mean, they should never be put on a list like that.
And then to say that they got to be 14 inches, if you go with Captain Al or Bill Varney and get a 14-inch spotted bay bass, that's a record. We're going to the scales. We're having a parade. We're going to have all kinds of stuff going on, gang. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I can't get these things big enough for you guys to see. All I can do is I'm going to throw up the website. It's Fish and Wildlife. Bill, talk about it for a minute.
Yeah, I can see where it says there, limited for kelp bass, barred sand bass, and spotted sand bass. So I asked everybody over the last couple of weeks to do me a favor and send me pictures, write me a couple of sentences so I could forward this to the commission, which I've held off on. I was going to do it earlier on Monday, actually, because I've only had a handful of responses. I've had lots of other people, Jim Hendricks, Matt Florentino, myself, pictures with Captain Al and so forth that we have ready to go. But I really need just the general public to send me an email just saying, hey, we love to fish for these. We don't see that there's any reason to change the regulation, something we enjoy doing with our children or grandchildren. And if you can attach a picture, I would really appreciate that. And you can email it to Fish the Surf, FISHTHESURF, Fish the Surf at mail, MAIL.com. Not Gmail, but just like mail, like the mailman.com. And we will forward all these to them, and we'll see what they have to say on the 11th.
Yeah, you know, on this subject, it's a real bummer. I grew up going down to the IB Flats fishing sand bass when I was really young, and since I started, doing all this charter fishing, one of my big things is taking kids fishing. And there's been over 1,000 kids over the years I've been doing this that have never caught a fish before. They get to my boat and they never caught a fish. First fish they catch is either a sand bass or a spotted bay bass, because they're fishing in calm water in the bay. We don't want to take them outside, especially for their first trip. And on the weekends, if I'm not taking the grandkids to the lake, guess what? They're spotted bay bass and sand bass fishing in the bay most of the year. They're getting older. I can take them outside now. But these fish have so much to do with the younger generation. It's mind-boggling that they want to mess with them. And another thing is they raised it to 14 inches on the spotties. Well, I still can't. How long ago did they do that? A long time ago. 2013. I still can't find a 14-inch spotted bay bass in the counts most of the trips. Every now and then we'll get 1%, out of 50 or 100 of them, but it has done nothing. There's a lot of 12.5 to 13 3/4 spotties, you know what I mean? But there is very few 14 plus spotted bay bass, and I wish I had the data on that, but there is so many spotted bay bass for every square mile in that bay. It's ridiculous.
Remember, Al,
Well,
we
John
talked
Bretza summed it up.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, remember, Al, we talked about how many metric tons there are of projected spotted bay bass in San Diego, Mission Bay, Huntington Beach, Newport Harbor, Los Alamitos. It's like, King Harbor. It's mind-boggling how many there are.
Right. And it's mind-boggling what this is going to do to the younger generations, man. It's just, the whole universe or whatever you want to say, they don't have metal shop, they don't have wood shop, they don't have that stuff in the school. It's all computerized. Well, now they take away that. What are we going to do? Go fish for mackerel? You know what I mean? It's they need to be out there doing this outdoor activity for them to become a great outdoorsman, and that's where it all starts. San Diego Bay is a kid's wonderland, and for them to take away the wonderland part of it is out of control, man.
And so just to add to what you're saying, the accessibility, spotted bay bass, and, we catch a lot of sand bass in the harbors as well. But, Dave Brown, who's, part of the Inland Empire, CCA, him and I both are fishing the Spotty Bowl. We fish from our kayaks. Guys fish from float tubes, from stand-up paddle boards. There's also guys fishing from shore. I mean, the accessibility for that fishery to get people into the sport is amazing. And if, you try to put restrictions on that, it's going to take all that away. And, when we talked about, MLPAs and all this stuff in the past, the big push was all about accessibility, public access, and they're going to take that away if they shut some of that down.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And the number one thing that people need to understand is when the way that this is worded, and when you read it, it sounds like there aren't any. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. So then you're going to have people that aren't educated in the ocean like you and I and Bill and Al, and we know there's a zillion of them, but now you're going to have people going, I can't believe you're fishing for that fish. It's almost extinct. It's not even close, gang. It's never had any. Here's one thing that you all need to understand. It's never had any commercial value. No one's ever been allowed to fish for sand bass, spotted bay bass, or calico bass commercially. So therefore, right away, I'm sorry, but you're not that good of a fisherman, John Bretza, to actually affect the population of the fish in the ocean with your fishing pole. We know that the commercial fishing is something that is super important to the United States of America. We have to be able to fish commercially for fish, but this fish is not a commercial fish. So there's no real threat of this fish having any type of population demise. The only thing is temperature of water. Something Bill and I talk about every Wednesday is water quality, and then the size of the bait. Those things are the three major factors. It isn't you and Xander and Zach going sand bass fishing. It isn't Bill and Al going sand bass fishing. That had nothing to do with this, gang. It's cycles. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this with John on here, and I know we got John and its tackle and its reels and everything, but Okuma is a giant partner in this to keep fishing open again. And John is a huge advocate of keeping fishing open. That's why I thought it was super important to talk about it while we have John Bretza on here, because you guys have no idea all the work that Okuma does behind the scenes to make sure that you and Bill and Al get to go fishing. And it's super important to understand that John's not in this just to, if we can't fish, he isn't going to sell a reel. He's not going to sell any reels. So it doesn't matter if he makes the greatest reels in the world if we can't go fishing, gang. On February 12th, that's the day we get to all go online and have our 1 minute or 2 minutes to speak. But if you read through what I just put up there, and I'm sorry I pulled it up and put it down, it says the 12th or the 13th. So we have to all be available both the 12th and the 13th. So have your computer on. I'll put the link up. We can't have here's something really funny. We can't even have the link until 14 days before the hearing. It's the craziest damn thing you've ever. They want to make damn sure that none of us get involved. That is, and this only affects us. It doesn't affect them. It's not going to change what they eat for dinner, but it will change what the four of us eat for dinner. And not that we're going to go eat a spotted bay bass or a sand bass, but when our children can't fish anymore.
And you know, Dave, if I just add, Dave, that in addition to the got to wait till 14 days, the information coming out at 14 days before it is the agenda, how to watch it, how to send a comment, how to call in and have a comment, like all of this pertinent information that you need to work on in advance of something. I mean, can you imagine having a meeting with a big company to propose your product and they don't tell you till an hour before your chances to stand in front of them?
Oh, there's a reason for that.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's pretty sad that that's how they play the game, but that's how they play the game. So it's going to be super important for all of us to be involved, and everybody that's watching. The funny thing is, John, is so many people say, I don't watch Dave, but I'll guarantee you they can tell you exactly what I say every single day. So those of you that are on your sport boats today watching the show, but you don't want anybody to know you're watching, that's okay. You don't have to tell anybody, but it's time for you guys to all get involved and let your passengers know and let everybody out there know that we all need to be involved, and we all need to show up on February 12th on our computers and set in line and wait for our opportunity to say the 1-minute words we're going to get to say. Will it make a difference? I don't know if it will or if it won't, but you know what? If we don't show up, then it's all just going to be gone, and you're going to go, how did that happen? Well, first of all, yesterday talking to Bob who's super involved in the industry, he didn't know. And like John Bretza said, he had a guy in his office yesterday. He didn't know. Everybody that's watching, we got 45 people watching live right now on YouTube. We got another 30 people watching on Facebook. It's up to us to get the word out there. Share this podcast with everybody you know. Just share it, gang. I don't care if it helps my algorithm or not. If I don't get to go fishing with my granddaughter or my grandson, I don't want to live anymore. I can't imagine living in a world where we can't fish. I just can't. I just can't believe that that's where we're headed, and that's what's going on. So please, everybody get involved.
And you know, Dave, if I could just add, you know, over all of my years at CCA and all these meetings I went to, the state of California just goes on and on and on about equity, inclusion, and all this stuff. And they talk about how there are minorities in our state, which are true, and subsistence anglers who really need to have the ability and the chance to get down there and go fishing. But every single thing that they do is anti-inclusion, and in particular of people who are economically challenged. If you can only fish from the rocks or a pier because you can't even afford a fishing license, how in the world are you going to have enough money to go on a half-day boat or a three-quarter-day boat or overnight? So if you want to be inclusive and include people in the marine experience who've never had it before, you don't make more hindrances to it, you make less. And so it doesn't really hurt all of us who are on the screen here who can afford to go on an 8-day trip on the American Angler. It hurts the millions of other Americans, and in particular Californians, who can't afford to do that, but actually go fishing not only as a sport, fun, and something to do with their family, but to provide food for their family. This is who they're hurting.
Very well said.
Absolutely.
Very, very well said. Very, very important, gang, for you to all understand. And it's just what my father, I'm so glad my father's not with us anymore, because he'd probably have a massive heart attack thinking about it. That's what made my dad. 1947, he started fishing off the San Clemente Pier. There's a place called B of A right off the pier. I talked about it yesterday. He put the boat in gear, drive for 4 minutes, drop the anchor. It's a little hard bottom next to the pier, and they'd catch thousands of sand bass every day. That's how they made their boat payment. That's why the spot's called B of A. We didn't take all the sand bass. And those of you that keep posting that kind of garbage on social media, you don't understand. You've never been to Mexico. This is a highly, highly migratory fish. When you go down to Mexico, gang, you can't even drop a lure to the bottom. The sand bass climb on it. If you're not fishing calicos at Cedros and you're fishing the sand or the mud off of Cedros, there's a zillion sand bass. Same with anywhere up or down the Baja Peninsula or any of the bays and lagoons of Baja. They're just filled with sand bass. Now, when that fish starts to migrate up the coast, that's a cold water year. They migrate through the cold water to come up and spawn, like Todd Mansur talked about last Friday on the show. Everything's cyclical. And the way that when I was talking to John a little bit ago about the albacore, we're in a cold water cycle right now. The divers are telling us the water's 47 to 52 degrees on the bottom. It's 55 degrees on the top. We haven't had that since 2013. So now we're going to have this massive migration of sand bass into Southern California. We're not going to be able to fish for it. It's just crazy. It doesn't make any sense. And this has all been done emotionally. But I want to thank Okuma for being there and standing in the gap and always supporting CCA and supporting Keep America Fishing. You guys are on the cutting edge, John. If everybody did what you guys did, they wouldn't be able to close fishing.
Our goal for being involved, not only is to support the fisheries, but to encourage everybody else to get involved. I mean, what we're doing is not going to have the big impact. Our hope is that we influence others so that everybody else gets involved, so we have a bigger voice in the industry.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. It's exactly what John's saying. And Bill, you're pretty involved with CCA also, Bill. And what's going on over there? We got the Star Tournament coming up. We're going to promote the hell out of that on our podcast every day. We're going to try to get the word out there. The Star Tournament, gang, is a phenomenal tournament. Bill will talk a little bit about it here in a second. John Bretza, Okuma has a lot to do with the Star Tournament. They give away a lot of money that brings all these prizes and all these people to the table. Last year, the amount of people that fished the Star Tournament was kind of embarrassing because I went to Texas and I did a show there. And I went to Florida and I did a show there. And they got 20,000 people fishing. I think we had 1,200 people fish in California. It's pretty sad. And the Star Tournament is supporting our industry. We need to get the word out there more than we ever have.
Yeah, the Star Tournament in Texas and Florida has some 40 to 50,000 entrants. So we obviously need to go back to that. Before we touch on that, I just want to bring up a couple of updates for people and ask you about something, see if people had heard about it. The first thing I wanted to let everybody know, and I saw a comment on here just a minute from, I think it was from Jason maybe, and thank you, Jason, for the email, which is about the wind turbines. Yesterday, President Trump signed an executive order which withdraws authorization for all offshore wind farms. So wind farms off of California and the East Coast are over. So don't worry about that anymore. California, although they were putting them up inside of state waters, unfortunately, they needed federal money in order to do that, which they're going to have none of. So I think it's the end of that. That's really good news. The other thing regarding in that same thing is we talked about this before, Dave, was where Tesla was building a battery facility, a test facility in Moss Landing, which was to be tested to hold the energy that was coming off the turbines. And then they were going to actually go down to Morro Bay with the closed power plant and convert that all to batteries. Well, when they connected it, so that was 4 years ago, it began to smolder and start on fire. They got it out finally. They fixed it all up. They put all the new batteries back in there again. God knows how much money they spent on it. And I don't know how many of you saw it on the news. It started on fire last week. It is still burning, and it's just an immense fire. So it's this whole turbine thing is falling apart. So thank God we're done with that.
Yeah, John Bretza, I know you're at work. Do you have to get going?
I'm good right now.
Okay, good. Okay, I just want to make sure we're not holding you back from doing work, because
Hey, this is work,
a
Dave.
big.
This is
Okay,
important.
good. Because this is a big thing, gang. Is this wind turbine thing? I've been talking about it for 2 years on the podcast. That's how I got Bill to start doing the show with me on Wednesdays, is because this wind turbine thing was such a big deal. And I was telling everybody, and most people had never even heard of it. And the sad thing is there's not a lot of information from all this garbage that's coming down on us fishermen in Southern California. So people go, "Oh, Dave, your show's so political. I can't watch it." Well, damn, you know what? Fishing, unfortunately, like my father said when he got into politics, fishing has gotten so gosh darn political that we have to get into it, gang, or we're not going to be able to. My dad did not want to be a politician. My dad was a boat captain. He was a landing owner. But he knew that if he didn't get involved, they were going to take it all away from us. John Bretza spends a ton of time in the political forum. Doug Lasco, Alwyn, you guys are in it because you understand that if we don't, we're not going to be able to fish. And that would suck. It would suck like crazy if the only time you got to fish is when you came down here to visit Dave in Mexico. But that's where they're headed, gang. That's why we talk about all the things we talk about on this show, because really, I don't know why, but I'm the only guy that's talking about all these issues. None of these other shows talk about it. I don't know why they don't talk about it. I don't know why the other podcasters don't talk about it, but these are issues that affect us on a daily flipping basis. And like I always say, I just don't want to not be able to take my grandchildren fishing. I got to fish, and I got to fish some of the coolest time in the world in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Right, Captain Al? It was incredible growing up fishing the way we got to fish and the things we got to see. And Bill Varney and John Bretza, you guys aren't as well. Bill, you're older than all of us. What am I talking about? But John Bretza, you're young for the group here. But we got to see some spectacular things in John Bretza's lifetime that we're never going to get to see again. We're never going to get to go fish Laguna Beach, California ever again. There's nothing like Laguna Beach on the planet. And John Bretza, Bill Varney have fished all over the world. And they'll tell you there's nothing like Laguna Beach, California. I don't give a crap where you go. There's nothing like Laguna. We can never fish there again because they took it away from us. And that was an emotional takeaway. There was no reason to close Laguna.
Absolutely. I
wish more people would get involved.
I do too. And you know, one good thing to know is that we can't speak for the people on the East Coast. And I know that, Dave, you'll have them back on the show to talk about the wind turbines out there. But here on the West Coast, we eliminated them up toward the Oregon-California border, Crescent City. That doesn't really have a big effect on anglers in California. It did have an effect on commercial anglers. But the big news is that we ended them from Morro Bay to Point Aguila, basically Vandenberg Air Force Base. And they had actually talked about bringing them all the way down to possibly Goleta in Santa Barbara. So the problem with that is all of that area would have been off limits, A, so that's not good. And then B, these turbines, because they give off a vibration, act as a fish aggregating device. So they would have drawn a lot of fish in toward and around and underneath them, and nobody would have been able to go fishing there. So back in the past, 200 yards offshore is really good at this spot. Now no longer, because all the fish that were there are aggregating during the daytime, most likely underneath these units. So really good news that stuff is hopefully behind us now.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's behind us. And I think that America's spoken and we're tired of it. Just like the governor of California, Trump trying to Trump-proof California. What the hell are you talking
Right.
about? MAGA-proof California. You know what MAGA stands for, everybody? Make America Great Again. Why would you not want that? I don't understand. Why would you not want, I don't give a crap if it's an orange guy, a white guy, a purple guy, a pink guy, whatever it is, let's make the country great again. How wonderful is that idea? And it doesn't make sense that we want to MAGA-proof California.
Hey, we need to get a hold of, try to get a hold of Trump's email. I'll send him an email and let him know exactly what's going on over here in California.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the really cool thing, like Michael Folks talked about yesterday, Donald Trump Jr. started following Michael last week. So the history of sport fishing, all that stuff that Michael pumps out every day because of Elliot, our good buddy. Elliot runs the history of sport fishing social media page for Michael Folks. So he's going to get to see what John Bretza, what Al Clowers, what Bill Varney, what Dave Hansen are talking about, because we're constantly collaborating with the history of sport fishing. So there's a good chance Junior is going to get to see what we're talking about and then maybe talk to his dad about it. So that's another reason why I talk about it every day, because you just never know who's listening.
Okay.
You don't know.
Come on,
listening.
Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Well, another thing, Dave, that I wanted to bring up is that I received an email today, I think it was. So some of you may have gotten this email from the Department of Fish and Wildlife. They have come up with a web-based angler survey. So I'm not sure who came up, who's got that, but let's just talk about that for just a second here. Okay, so they've come out with this survey, right? And you enter it now. Right now, it only covers freshwater bodies of water in California, but they're going to expand it to saltwater. And so it asks you, like, where did you go fishing? Oh, I went to Big Bear Lake out of the drop-down menu. And what did you catch? And what did you use for bait? And how long were you there? And how many fish did you catch? And it asks you a bunch of questions like this. Okay, back in the olden days, it would be great to give this information out because we want it to be used for scientific purposes. In this day and age, under the premise, if we went back an hour in the show where we were saying that this decision that is made on these sand bass was made by the Department of Fish and Wildlife, looking in the LA Times at the fish report and seeing that last year there was 2,200 sand bass taken in a day, and now there's only 200. So all of a sudden, based on our personal reporting to them, they're cutting us off. So it concerned me. So I sent them an email and I asked them to tell us specifically what they're going to use the information for, because we're certainly not going to go out and promote us reporting on ourselves when it gives them a chance to take away our fishing. So they have a website set up for you to go to for the angler survey. And in typical government style, this is the address to you to be familiar with giving your information to the government. cirs.wildlife.california.gov. They couldn't have just gone out and spent $10 on a domain name of let's say, californiafishingsurvey.gov. They had to come up with something that I have to write on a piece of paper to even know what it is. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
So,
hey,
Bill,
I got that email, Bill, and my mind was spinning. I didn't do anything with it yet.
I got the same thing last week, and that was exactly my impression too. I thought, there's no way I'm plugging this stuff in right now.
Right.
I know, John. I wonder, John, how many people saw that and felt like that.
Right, and it's for the lakes. So my head was spinning because we got issues with the lakes too nowadays, mainly with the city. But maybe they're trying to pinpoint some issues with the lakes and tell you can't fish for largemouth bass or something. Who knows what they're trying to do, right?
Well, that's another thing that John and Doug and Alan and I have been talking about is this 30-30 that's coming down the pipe in this year. We kicked the can down the road 2 years ago, But this is coming right back, Al. This is going to take those of you that are going, the saltwater, I don't care. They're coming after the land-based fishermen now. They're coming after the lakes and streams up in Mammoth and all those places. They're coming after your lakes, Al. They do not want you to fish in California. So, John, when we were on the boat, you and me and Doug cruising around talking, all these different things. It's so crazy. We go down this rabbit hole, and the next thing we're talking about stuff, and the guys that are deep into it are like, really? That going on? Or just like when we were talking to Doug, and he was like, yeah, they opened up the Cod Conservation Zone. And I go, yeah, but you're not allowed to keep anything that lives in it. And he was like, what? And I go, yeah, you can't keep the fish that live there. It's the dumbest thing you've ever seen. So they keep you so confused, like Bill just said, with how to get on the website. Confusion is how they do this. They just keep us all confused. One thing that I'm very leery, I got the same email, you guys, and here's what I thought. Okay, so John reports that he caught 200 sand bass with his boys yesterday. Al says he caught 40 sand bass last night with Bill Varney on his boat. And then Dave says, yeah, Kelly and I caught 75 calico bass yesterday fishing on our boat. Then all of a sudden, it's working in against us. They're like, oh, they're catching way too many. We got to cut it down. So it's a double-edged sword. We don't know what to do, gang. It's so scary right now, but the only thing we can do is all be involved. That's number one. You got to be involved. You got to be involved. The sport boat industry needs to be involved. Dana War Sport Fishing, you walk inside the door and you see it's posted on the wall in there. Other landings, you don't see it. Same thing with the Star Tournament. We talked about it all last year. Every single sport boat should be supporting the Star Tournament. Everybody should have that ruler. All deckhands should whip that thing out of their pocket and lay it out on the deck, and the people go, what is that? It's the Star Tournament. You could all be involved. It's all money. What it takes is to fight this is money. All the people that are there making these decisions are getting paid a phenomenal amount of money. When John Bretza, myself, Michelle at Okuma, Dave Brown, when we show up, we're there on our own time. We're there donating our time to our industry to try to keep fishing open. They're all sitting behind those little tables. They're all getting paid 100, 150, 200 grand a year to suppress what we're trying to do. Well, we have been this for an hour and 20 minutes. I know John Bretza has to get back to work. I know that. Even though this is work, I know that there's probably a bunch of people standing at his door. So, John, we're going to wrap this thing up if you're cool with that. If you got anything to add to this, feel free.
Just to bring up the Star Tournament, I mean, what an exciting way, though, to get people involved. One, it's not expensive. It's a tournament. You don't have to go on a specific date. It's so accessible for everybody of all, from, guys that are top level anglers to, entry level anglers. And you might get a chance. There's a lot of opportunities to win. It's pretty cool. So I encourage, everybody to look into that because like Dave, you said, it's a fun event, but it's supporting the industry. And, hopefully we can get, some voice out there at the show coming up this week. Maybe we can help educate a little bit more of the anglers. And, I encourage you guys to stop by the Okuma booth. I have 2 other prototype rods that will be out in June that you guys can take a look at for the West Coast. I won't talk about them now, but stop by the booth and we'll have a conversation, talk fishing, talk product, and we can talk about the fisheries as well.
Yeah, and when you come to the show, gang, I'll be up on stage talking with the Okuma products in my hand, and John usually is at somebody from Okuma will be at every one of my shows because they're just so funny. They don't want to miss it. And also we'll have their products on stage. We'll be talking about them. We'll have their products in our booth like we do every year. And just go to the shows. If you're going to go to the hall shows, go and enjoy yourself. If you're going to come to the PCS show, understand there's going to be a gazillion people there. I would get there early. I would go more than one day. That show is overwhelming how large it has gotten now. And Okuma will have a huge footprint there at the show. We'll have a big footprint at the show. Bill Varney will be there. Captain Al will be there. We're going to be doing seminars every day at the show. It's going to be spectacular. I want to thank John Bretza for taking time out of his day to be on the show with us. And gang, if you have any questions for Okuma, you can always put them on after the show, because everybody at Okuma goes through after the show. They go and they look and they try to answer your questions. And don't miss out on this great deal on the Cavallo reel. This is a phenomenal deal for people that are watching the podcast, 20% off. John Bretza talked about the reel, talked about the design of the reel, why you want to have one of these in your arsenal. And it all depends on what size fish you're fishing for. Like he said, he's got many, many different sizes. You can check it all out through the QR code or go to the website at AkumaFishingUSA.com. Put in the code DHCAV and the number 20. DHCAV, the number 20, or just use the QR code, and that's going to save you the 20% right away. Guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us today and watch the show and share this with everybody. And John Bretza, Captain Al Clowers, Bill Varney, thank you guys so much for just taking some time and being on my silly little show.
Thanks for inviting us.
It's more than a silly little show now, Dave.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. Thank you all very much. Have a great day. Turn off the news. They're all lying. This is the only place